The fall of the Roman Empire. History is replete with endings and turning points, and it is of endings and turning points that I wish to discuss today. This painting was painted in the early 1800s, and it's one of my favorite, and I keep it as a reminder that everything changes. Even the most powerful empire with the most powerful armies and the most powerful currency, one day everything ends. So moving forward onto today, I want to talk about endings involving crypto and Finance 1.0, as people call it. Merlot Mama, why don't you come sit down?
Alrighty.
Well, Merlot Mama, thanks for joining me again on one of my crypto videos.
Yeah.
We just finished filming one of her wine tasting videos, so cheers.
Yes.
So going back to the painting hanging up on the wall, you know, I love that painting because I always like to think about that everything ends. My life ends, this video ends, crypto will end, the money we use will end, and I don't know how crypto will end one day. You know, I don't know who will be the last person to add a transaction to the blockchain. But somebody will be that person, and it'll be over. Now, when you look at crypto, I might not know how Bitcoin ends. I have no idea how, say, Hex is going to end, which is my new favorite project. But one thing I can tell you is I have a pretty good feeling how XRP is going to end. Seems the SEC has pulled out its ban hammer and is just whack-a-moling projects left, right, and center. So another project that I had traded a while back before I was more into Hex, and that was ShipChain. Let's look at their chart. And that's not doing so good. So the SEC went after them. They got fined $2 million, and of course the project is done. So all the investors lose their money. And so we can see this happening with a lot of cryptos. They're going after XRP. You know, they're saying they're not a security. But, like, let's face it, like, Ripple is a security. When I started in crypto, the currency was called Ripple. They were called Ripple. They were making a network. I had owned XRP on the expectation of profiting off their work. That was the sales pitch back in 2013 or 2014. I guess it was 2014 when I had some Ripple. So that was the way I understood it. And so probably they're going to end at the hands of the regulator strangling them to death slowly. And this will happen with a lot of cryptos. But the cryptos that will survive will be ones that are not labeled a security by the government and thereby don't fall under any of their regulations. So we have Bitcoin. Now, Ethereum, even though they had an ICO, they were ruled not a security for some reason, which is fine by me. And you look at Hex, nothing about it is a security, so that's one of the reasons why I'm bullish about it. I'm not waiting for anything. There's some code. It's done. I run it. I minted my own coins back in the days of the adoption amplifier. I've bought more that others have minted, but I'm not expecting anything out of those people. I'm not expecting anybody to actually do anything other than in the future, I want to mint some more and gain interest, which I will do on my own using the Ethereum network. So I feel pretty confident that the end of Hex and Bitcoin and Ethereum isn't anytime soon. I don't feel confident that a lot of other projects are going to make this next round of purges that's happening. So I'm personally divesting myself of anything that has central points of failure or could be thought of as a security. I don't want anything to do with that. So that's where I am about that. And then in terms of endings, Finance 1.0 is slowly dying out. You know, you can just see the system falling apart. Now, for me, Finance 1.0 is mainly sponsored by the US dollar, which is of course sponsored by the United States and the Federal Reserve. And things are quite interesting there in the States. Even if you leave out all the political stuff, I mean, there's a lot of debt and the US dollar dominance around the world. I don't see that happening forever either, honestly. One thing is when people start asking you about cryptocurrencies, then you know there's a change happening. Maybe it's just a bull run, or maybe overall more and more people are asking. So you recently had an experience where somebody knew, you know.
Yeah, I was video chatting with a friend, and she was just talking to me about, cryptocurrencies, and she was asking me, she knew that David was into it. And I know a bit here and there, but, like, I'm still learning, obviously, and it's, it's awesome. But, yeah, she was asking me just, I don't know, just questions.
What kind of questions did she ask? Just out of curiosity, what is a newbie? Let's give some background. We don't want to dox anybody, but she has an accounting background, I believe.
Yeah, she has an accounting background. She was just, so the kind of question she was asking me was, so her biggest fear, I thought, was, if I died, how do my children get my money, right?
Well, and that would be the passing on of private keys.
Yeah, and I tried to explain that to her, but like she didn't understand that for some reason. And then another thing that she said was, I don't know.
You had mentioned about the using, like, if it's so good, why can't you spend it?
Oh, right. If it's so good, like, why can't I spend it at Walmart or, like Costco or something like that? And
yeah, whereas I, kind of throw in the answer that Richard Hart gave a long time ago, which I figured was just a genius answer, is, if you have shares at McDonald's and you walk into McDonald's with them, can you trade them for a cup of coffee? Even if you actually had the paper that's worth, say you had $10,000 of shares on that, like, they wouldn't give you a cup of coffee for it. So
yeah, and like she was like asking me like how much one Bitcoin was, so I obviously told her like what it is right now, and then she's like, where do I buy Bitcoin? And I didn't really know the answer to some of these questions. I answered them as best as I could because he wasn't obviously with me there. But yeah, there was just a few questions that was interesting, and I felt like I did pretty good. Like with some of the questions, I felt like I did really good.
I'm sure you did.
Yeah. She asked me, she's like, well, where did Bitcoin come from? And I said, Satoshi Nakamoto.
Nakamoto.
Am I saying it wrong? I'm sorry.
It's okay.
But yeah, and she's like, who's he? And I was like, well, he's the guy who like created it and then disappeared with like, I don't know how much money is in his...
Well, it's estimated he has about 1 million Bitcoins in his wallet.
And she's like, well, there you go. If the guy's missing, then obviously it's fake, is what she said to me.
So obviously there's a conversation to be had on onboarding new people into the cryptocurrency space. And there is more and more interest out there. And I always make notes when just somebody on the street or just whatever, some regular person starts inquiring about it. Because in my life personally, I find it pretty rare. It's something that it's a quiet hobby I've always done by myself and kept to myself. In the past, whenever I've tried to share it with somebody, I was always laughed out of the room kind of thing. And so now people are starting to take it more seriously. And the reason is because there's money there, and there's real money there. And crypto has been the best performing asset of all of human history. And you could say it's a bubble. Well, maybe it is, but it's been going on for over a decade now.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and it's just...
I didn't even know anything about it until I met you, which was only like 4 years ago.
Yeah, so it's the best way to accumulate wealth in the modern era, right? Like, everything we love has become digital, right? Photos, videos, conversations with people. We had Christmas this year over Zoom, and so it makes sense that our way that we store value is going to become digital too. And Finance 1.0, with all its monolithic empire and all its rules and KYC and just all the garbage they put you through. Like that time I gave you a check for $15,000 and then they wouldn't even deposit it. You had to make an appointment.
Yeah, I went there with it and they wouldn't allow me to deposit it like right then and there. And I'm like, okay, why? And they're like, well, you need to make an appointment. Literally, I made an appointment a week later. I stood in line for an hour. We talked about random things. He just tried to get me to sign up for like, oh, do you have a kid? Oh, there's programs for this, for more money. And then the process took 3 seconds.
Yeah.
But I had to make an appointment, sit down with him for an hour so he could ask me a million questions about how to invest with this bank even more. And you have a child, do this. Oh, you're getting married, you need this, and da-da-da-da-da. And then finally, I was like, no, I just want you to put this check into my bank account.
And here in Canada, the AML KYC laws are getting more and more complicated, and things that used to be done in the past. I was self-employed for 9 years, and I remember depositing checks of $100,000 years ago and nobody even blinking at it. And then you give somebody a paltry amount of $15,000, and then while they won't even do it that day, you have to make a separate appointment to deposit it. And then as you saw in a previous video, well, I can buy $15,000 worth of Hex in a few seconds and it's done and I don't have to talk to anybody about it. So we see the awesomeness of just having things in a digital format. There's no reason that this bogged down system that's been created around traditional banking needs to be here. It's just an absolute travesty and a nightmare. It has nothing to do with customer service or making your experience any better, or making your life better, or doing anything good for you. It's just all about inconvenience, and I feel crypto addresses it, and I feel that it addresses it in a store of value. Sure, it might not be an awesome currency, and it'll probably never be a currency. My very first crypto video ever, I talk about that. I made that video in the beginning of maybe 2018. And I say straight up, I don't see people using Bitcoin in the grocery store to buy groceries. But as a separate store of value, I do see it. And for myself, also, I've really gotten into Hex. And, I like the value proposition of being able to time lock your coins and gain an interest on it. So, yeah, moving forward in the Hex ecosystem, I'm excited. I've been acquiring Hex this whole time since after the big payday. I'd made a video a while back where I kind of buy some at the top on purpose, and then I staked it for 16 months. So in 16 months, we'll go back and look at it and see if that was a profitable decision or not. The other thing too is I'm just really pumped how the ecosystem is growing. I recently was invited to a live stream with BallietBran, which you watched.
I did.
Yeah, she was watching upstairs while I was talking, and I used her phone because, of course, I don't have a webcam.
Used my phone. Our daughter was in the bathtub, and I was sitting on the floor with my laptop watching it.
Oh, okay. So
yeah, it was awesome.
The Hex ecosystem is growing, and the other day too, when I made the video about me buying some and trading in some more Bitcoin for Hex, I'd mentioned how the liquidity pool is narrowing, and I think that could provide a favorable upswing in the future. Like right now, there's still a lot of people that had only staked it for roughly a year, right? So I was one of those people early on, like when I FOMO'd in day one, I was just setting my stakes a year and a week, a year and a month in advance, like this kind of thing. And so there's a lot of free claimers, and some of these people who are just in it for the short term and they have mad gains, they only know one thing, and they know take profits, because it's never a mistake to take profits. But once they do, and they sell, and they look around the ecosystem, which I do all the time, and you start seeing ShipChain, XRP, SEC Banhammer, hitting this, hitting that, and just slaughtering everything out there. There isn't a lot of investments out there in crypto that are going to be immune from this purge. So I'm bullish on Hex still.
I love that word, Sorry.
Okay.
I love the word bullish.
Bullish? Well, you mess with the bull, you get the horns.
Is that like, I feel like it's like an I don't know, like...
It's a stock trading term.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, so...
Didn't know that.
We'll give you
the more you know.
A quick lesson.
Okay.
So there's two animals that represent the stock market. There's the bull and the bear. And so the bear is grumpy and sleepy.
Aww.
And so when he's out, everything goes down. And when the bull's out, he's out there kicking ass and running. And so everything's going up. So when you say crypto's in a bull market, it's going up. When it's in a bear market, it's going down.
That's so interesting.
So when traders talk, they always talk about bulls and bears.
I usually only hear bullish. Is that a bad thing?
Well, I'm usually perpetually bullish, so probably not. And a lot of times, you know, if I told you, how you doing today, you would most likely reply, I'm doing well, even if you weren't. So a lot of people, even if they're bearish, they don't want to be the bad news bear, you know, in the conversation. So not as many people talk about it. But there are some people that are perma-bears, like Nouriel Roubini or whatever that guy's name is. They call him Dr. Doom. And when I was younger, I thought he was a genius because he predicted the downturn in the housing market in 2008. And then I was like, oh, this guy's a genius. And then when I looked into his content, this guy's a bear on everything that exists. And he's always putting out bear calls. I follow him on Twitter for years. Everything is a bear with this dude. And then so like, yeah, well, when something goes down, you look smart. It almost makes me feel like doing different price calls. Like, hey, it's 2021, and I'm going to say in the year 2025, Bitcoin's at 70K. And then do a video for 60K and 50K, and then delete the ones that I was wrong on and just leave the one that I was right up on YouTube, and then be like a genius, eh? So, you know, anyways, that was a tangent conversation. Had nothing to do with anything. So I guess it's time to wrap this video up, and thank you for joining me again. I think it's always nice to have a little bit of a feminine touch, especially in dry crypto financial opinion videos such as mine. And again, everything I say here is not financial advice. It's just me talking about how I feel and what I'm thinking about. Let's cheers and have a good night.